Before we get into this one, just want to give a huge shout out to John from the JP podcast. These last two uploads that you will see from us at the Cleveland Pulse are brought to you by the in-person setup that John was so gracious to let us borrow and let us use for recording these two uploads for the channel. We really appreciate it, and if you really like listening to other opinions, I feel like if you watch us, I hope that you listen to some other Cavs people and you like to hear what we have to say. But if you like hearing opinions from a lot of different sources, go check out his channel. I'm going to leave the link in the description, and I'm going to put it up on the screen right here. Thanks again, John.
Thank God.
3, 2, 1. Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. Welcome out to Cavs Encapsulated number 10. A little bit of a different setup. I got Logan on the left, I got Justin on the right, and we got Kyrie in the background hitting the most famous shot in Cleveland sports history. Not debatable, but we're in person for the 10th installment of our show, Cavs Encapsulated, here on the Cleveland Pulse. The Cleveland Cavaliers are on a 2-game winning streak, and it's all-star voting time. As you can see, we got new merch. Let's show the merch. Let's go. We got Mobley and Jared Allen. We got this classic navy over here, and then we got the 1981 All-Star game.
Santa was good.
Yes, reminiscing for this season's All-Star game. The voting is live for that. Make sure that you go on to NBA.com, look at their rules. The NBA app, kind of not very user friendly. I would definitely do it through Twitter. Just, pull up your Twitter, hashtag NBA All-Star. You could either add them, you could either at Jared Allen, at Darius Garland, whoever you want to do, or you could type in their name, hashtag, first name, last name. So that's all the administrative stuff I think I'm going to go through. But Logan, how's it going?
Hi, man. Well, we're doing good. I definitely like this setup. It's always good seeing you guys. I guess it makes sense, right? 10 episodes in, you kind of go, a little bit extra and do the in-person. But yeah, just overall doing real well. Love to see what I'm seeing from the Cavaliers. 144 points last night.
Crazy.
What do you have? 20 plus triples, 39 assists, I believe. And we'll get into talking about these guys and talking about these games. Obviously, there's less and less to talk about, and there's so many players out for so many teams. But I've said it before: you put 10 guys on the court, which 5 is better? And the Cavaliers have certainly been better this point in the season with, all the situations going on right now.
Justin, most points through 3 quarters last night in franchise history, 118. How many times have we seen that, though? We've seen that like a couple of times where we score 70. We've scored 70 in the first half, probably 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
It's gotten really ludicrous at this point. And even to what Logan was mentioning about the lineups that we have, the guys that we're missing, you're missing some of your best players right now, and you're being able to put up major league points. Obviously, a lot of your best 3-point shooters aren't your starting guys, but it's incredible to come out here each night and kind of getting to the point where you were going at, where it's like, it's kind of getting boring. We were talking a little bit earlier. It was almost like our Brown stuff, except in a good way, where it's like, it's becoming this ongoing theme where we just have dominating wins. And it's like, man, let's get back to a close one, but not really.
I don't know. It's just like, we want to go live after as many games as possible, but after the last one, we appreciate chat and we appreciate people coming out. We appreciate you hitting that like button, making sure that you subscribe, turn on that bell notification, all that good jazz. It's free to you and it means the world to us. But we just can't go live after games. They're so boring. It's like there's nothing to talk about, and it's boring even with people in protocol. I mean, how many guys did we have score last night? Literally everybody. We had guys get their first NBA points, and we're going to get into it, but the first game, the Celtics game, which we did lose, we were actually, I think it was a similar roster composition, but I just think the Celtics are a better team. And I think that we're blowing teams out, and it's getting to this point where it's tough to talk about some of the games because we have been seasoned. We have played some of the better competition in the league. So when we play a team who is, has a G League roster out there, even if our starters aren't involved 100%, I feel like JB has put in a system where it's going to work if you get guys off the street on a 10-day exemption contract, Logan, like Cornette, like Justin Anderson last night, and even Denzel Valentine having a good game.
Absolutely. Actually, no, personally, Justin Anderson, I wouldn't mind, seeing stay along for the ride. And that becomes difficult because the Cavaliers have their set lineup. They have who they want. But then you have guys who come in and it's almost like a guy like Justin Anderson, a guy like Luke Cornette, even they have bought in, to what JB Bickerstaff is selling. By the way, congratulations, JB, on the extension. Well deserved. But yeah, it just seems like guys walk in and there's this Cavs culture suddenly. And the way I look at it, guys, yeah, okay, COVID protocols, sure. I just mentioned a second ago about how, our 5 is better than their 5. But beyond that, we're still playing good fundamental basketball down these many guys. I mentioned the assist numbers. I mentioned, getting open and knocking down triples, playing that same scrappy brand of defense they've been playing all season. So yeah, there's guys down, no doubt about it, but you beat 5 grown men by 40 plus points. And I know we're talking about the Celtics game right now, which I'll get into in a second. That tells you a lot about the culture, what's going on in the locker room, who's leading the way, and the guys that aren't on the protocols, how are they leading that locker room? How are they leading the charge? That Celtics game, 10-point loss, definitely looks closer than it really was. But at the end of the day, the Cavaliers gotten multiple holes, and multiple times they fought back and got themselves, within an earshot. So it was a lot of fun watching them. A lot of fun watching Taco Fall start, right? 4 points, 10 rebounds. What do you have? Like 2 blocks out of obviously minimal action. Good to see him, back in Boston. Garland goes for 28. You got Jetty with 13. Kevin Love, another great week of basketball for Kevin Love. Yep. So at the end of the day, you just don't have the firepower right now, but to go 1-1 in the week, to take Boston in Boston to a 10-point, game, despite them having guys out as well, facing 2 all-stars like Tatum and Brown, I think as a Cavs fan, you have to be very satisfied.
Justin, second 5-year contract we've seen Kobe Altman give out to a head coach.
Oh, no.
Now it's definitely grades out better than the John Beeline move, but give that extension for when it came in the season and how many years, give that a grade in your opinion from Kobe Altman.
In terms of Kobe Altman, it's got to be an A- because you look at just giving Beeline how many games did Beeline even make it through before
he made it to the All-Star break? Like barely.
Did he make it to the All-Star break?
Not even.
And that's the problem with college coaches, because it doesn't happen so often that you have a great track record of college coaches making it in the NBA or in any professional sport. Mm-hmm. But being able to watch JB Bickerstaff for what has now been 2.5 years, right? Maybe 2 years if you count him coming in.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you watch the body of work happen, and I'm sure last year wasn't fantastic. We definitely didn't have the guys that we have this year. And now you get into the game, or you get into this season, and we already have almost as many wins as we did last year. Yeah. It's phenomenal to see. And it's, on Kobe Altman's part, it was kind of that wait and see with JB Bickerstaff. We had just talked about maybe him being in line for that contract. Yeah. Now it happens, and we're just looking at a lot of different things and a lot of different players. And the one nice thing from our streams that we get to see, not the streams that we do, but the streams that we watch for the Cavs, is that you get to see some of the clips of people talking and watching JB Bickerstaff talk about his players and talk about how, they're buying into this culture that he's setting. And, you can really tell that there's something going on when you look at the lineups that we're putting out there. So honestly, I think Kobe Altman did the right thing here. 5 years. We didn't get a number detail to that, I don't think.
No.
We might be able to look.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
We might be able to look into that later, but 5 years. Hopefully those 5 years with this nice young core is going to be, some of the best years that we've seen as Cavs fans.
And take away the wins and losses, guys. And believe me, they have a very nice record. But it is like watching this locker room. They have like their whole dog barking thing they have, right? They have, they have their high fives, their handshakes, that, they're laughing, they're jumping up and down.
It's almost like a college team.
It is.
It really is.
It is.
That's like a compliment for sure, too.
Absolutely.
Kind of how they operate. People come
Absolutely.
off the bench. Everybody looks the same, basically.
Yeah, just guys supporting each other. And that comes back to coach, making a new culture. So, you might say, oh, he's only a little bit into this season, already throwing 5 years in the bag at him. Well, the thing is, he's changed the culture. And when you change culture, That's what gives you longevity, I think, in the NBA. You can have all the talent in the world, and we had it for 4 years. And after 4 years, it all just disappeared, right? This is something that you can actually sustain, something you can build, and something that you can look forward to as a Cavs fan when you have a guy that is leading the way and has changed the culture and has gotten guys to enjoy their job more than they already do.
I think the A- grade that Justin gives, though, is spot on, just because, and it's not, I don't want to use the word corny, but Kobe Altman just does this. He wants to put down roots so badly and say, oh, I got this guy 5 years. And it would be an A grade or an A+ grade, I think, for a little bit less of a tenure, only because that's something I would hold to 95% of the coaches in the National Basketball Association. Right. I don't know how many coaches in the league should be tenured for 5 years on a contract. Greg Popovich, Steve Kerr are the top two. You could probably sneak Eric Spoelstra in there, and I'm probably missing somebody. Maybe who's the coach for Milwaukee?
Mike Budenholzer.
Budenholzer. Probably, there's maybe 3 to 4 to 5 guys who have been in the league for, many amount of years who could get a 5-year extension. But let's talk about the Celtics team, because we've played them a couple of times. And as Logan was alluding to, it was a 10-point loss. It really was never that close. It seemed like we couldn't get over the hump with who we were sending out there. Kind of a warm-up game for some of these guys that we just recently brought onto the squad. I don't think Boston's really that bad. I just think they're wildly underperforming. They have good pieces. I mean, talk about a game from Robert Williams, 21 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists. Of course, Jaylen Brown, the only time we're going to see him all year, which is nice. We missed him in the first 2 outings, and they took a game off us. They beat us 2 out of 3 times, 1 game without Jaylen Brown. So, they have good pieces there. I don't know if they're primed to make a run for, the Eastern Conference Finals or anything like that, but I think they're a good matchup with us.
They are. I think this team kind of is maybe a second round exit. Maybe they surprise some people. We saw it with many good teams. Sometimes teams coast or struggle in the regular season. They get it together those last 10 to 15 games and they get rolling. Boston could certainly do that. You look at Robert Williams, big day, 21, 11, and 7. But I think that shows the impact of not having Mobley and Allen out there at the end of the day. Teams were, especially that Boston game, and especially since we've lost Tower City, teams are getting to the basket. And it's kind of a different way to watch basketball for us Cavs fans this year, because we've been used to, you want to come into our last line of defense, we'll send you packing, we'll send you right back the other way. And so it is kind of interesting just watching what kind of impact bigs have on the NBA nowadays, especially when it comes to the Cleveland Cavaliers. We get those guys back, maybe Robert Williams doesn't have that kind of day, maybe we win that game in Boston. More than likely, honestly, we do. That's what's, I guess, in a way that's actually good though, when you get to see, is our team really good? Are these 2 guys actually as valuable as we think? Or is this just a flash in the pan? No, it's obvious when we're at full strength, don't mess with the Cavaliers. I mean, in a lot of ways, this is going to be a team. It's going to punch you in the mouth, and they're going to make you remember it.
Yeah, I think we learned a lot more in the Celtics game than we did in the Raptors game, probably just because I watched more of the Celtics. I really didn't get to catch, the entirety of the game last night. But Justin, how difficult is it this year to figure out, this is something that me and you have an issue with the Browns and with the NFL in general, but it's kind of trickling into the NBA, which is, I think it started in the NBA first of all, but it's how can you really tell how good some of these teams are with COVID, with injuries? If you scoreboard watch around the NBA, you might think teams suck, but they've really, if you find our rosters and who's played, it's well, that's a totally different story. But it's how do you gauge the Cavs off of these 2 games, really?
Well, there's always that talk about, you're only as strong as your weakest links. Right. And, for this game, unfortunately, I think JB was trying to do some lineup figuring out, and we see it in the next game that he goes with a completely different one. Maybe he does that because of who the Raptors have, but Taco gets the start in this game, but doesn't get to play in the next game. There's just some figuring out to do. And when you do that, obviously you're going to drop some, you're going to have some stumbling points. And unfortunately, a 101 to 111 loss isn't, making us look any worse than what we are with all the pieces we're missing. And so obviously being able to go and then rebound with a bunch of guys that we just picked up for 10-day contracts is phenomenal. I think it's really tough to go around the NBA and just judge teams off of their records, because there are some stints where we were missing a lot of guys earlier on this season. We dropped a couple games that we probably could have won. So I think in reality, we might be a better team than we're even talking about. We've been talking about how great this team actually is. And unfortunately, everyone's dealing with the health and safety protocols. But I just think that the way this team has been all year long, that they're kind of deservingly so where they are. I think that, it might not last going into the playoffs because of how young of a core they are. But I think getting there in the first place will just be a huge accomplishment and, boast what we are as a team.
All that matters, guys, is wins and losses, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's dealing with COVID protocols.
Right.
I get tired of watching people on Twitter saying, yeah, but who did they play? I guess we got 20 wins.
Right.
And right
if
now,
you're going to say that, like, that's basically the whole regular season. That's
right.
How the regular season has been for years. It's like who's playing, who's not, who's on load management.
Right. And it's an even playing field when everybody is dealing with the exact same issues. It just so happens to be the Cavaliers are dealing with those issues a lot better. At the end of the day, wins get you to the playoffs, and the Cavaliers have stepped up and showed out in all the games, depending on who's on the floor. Doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, they're coming out on top in a lot of these games.
Yeah, and back to Justin's point about everybody being where they are, and I'm going to bring it up again. Don't put it on these two guys because this is my itinerary for this episode. But if you look at the standings, the Cleveland Cavaliers 20-13, fifth in the East. Miami is surprisingly ahead of us with 21 wins, which is kind of crazy for how I feel like Butler and Bam really haven't played for them in the past couple of weeks. Milwaukee's ahead of them. The Bulls are ahead of them. Probably the second most surprising team in the East, I would say, after the Cavs, maybe arguably the first most surprising team. And then Brooklyn at the top. But we're only 3 games back from behind
second, right?
First.
Oh, even first, right?
3 games out from behind Brooklyn, but we've lost to Brooklyn, we've lost to Milwaukee, we beat Miami a couple times. I'm really excited to play some of these other teams in the East. I'd like to see Philadelphia and their roster. I'd like to play Chicago at full strength. We're getting the Wizards, which we're going to make predictions about here in some short time. But as I said, I think that the Celtics might be too decent to make a move, and I don't think people like when we harp on the trade moves because they like how this team is playing. The chemistry is good, but if you really think that we could make a splash this season and be a top 2 to 3 seed in the East, which I think we might be able to make the third seed with the roster we have now, but to go all the way and to really make a run at, an Eastern Conference final somehow this year, is there any move out there, Justin, minor, small, maybe just like a free agent or a big blockbuster trade that makes sense for you right now and for this team?
I just can't get behind it at this point. We've talked about it to an extent.
Buddy Hield lover preseason.
I love Buddy Hield, and I love the idea of getting a 3-point sharpshooter in the starting lineup at guard. I can think that's
they're
the one
valuable pieces in the NBA nowadays.
Yep.
But I just can't get behind it. I'm one of those guys who I like seeing the continuity. I like seeing the energy brought by a lot of these guys who come off the bench, or just when they're on the bench, how involved they are with the game and with this team in particular. And so honestly, I'm off the train. I was very much on it at the beginning because
I only asked because I swear some of our beat reporters were saying that somebody in our front office has been re-expressing interest in Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
And I'm not interested. Why are we expressing interest in him now? He would be my bottom of the barrel, acquisition.
Yeah. He's just one of those guys that I feel like he's too involved with the exterior, the NBA, where it's more about being a popular, star and everything than it is about actually playing the game of basketball for the people around you, which I think is what JB Bickerstaff has established in that locker room, is playing for the people around you. It's the biggest thing that I think should be established in each and every locker room in professional sports. Play for the person next to you. That's all it is. That's all it's about. You want to win a championship. That's what you're here for. Sure. Are the accolades of going to a Pro Bowl or an All-Star game, great? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, you play these games to go play for the championship.
Yeah. I mean, last podcast, I think we talked about Kobe Altman. I mentioned David Griffin always talked about, he always cared about the fit more than the actual name. Right. If there isn't a guy out there that doesn't fit, it's not worth it. Ben Simmons is a very talented player. He can really D up offensively while he's scared to shoot. He can certainly run an offense, but it does his personality fit. He seems like he's a bit more to himself. You can see he's a little bit timid at times, obviously on the offensive end. You can tell he gets in his own head mid-game. And I don't think there's really any players on this Cavalier roster that get in their own head. they're very supportive of
Not
each
in the
other.
roles they're in. I feel like Love and Chetty have been. That was them. That was in the past. That was
in the
their
past,
issue, but
certainly.
not anymore.
Absolutely, and there's just been a lot of growth. And I think if you're bringing in a guy, he has to be ready to buy into the culture and play the Cavs way. And I just think looking at a lot of these players that you could maybe make a move for, I don't think it's there. And I'm kind of like Justin, I'm off the train a little bit as well. And Jeff, I still want to talk about the segment that you have listed here for sure. But I think to me, you need to play this season out. Where are we at? What pieces are worth holding on to? Do we see promise in this young player? Is this guy going to work? I mean, I think there's just so many questions that still need to be answered because we have a starting five of guys who are all under the age of 25. There's still growth for a lot of these guys. And I think when you get to that point, maybe you pull the trigger next year. Maybe you pull the trigger in the summer and just grab another piece, and you don't have to lose. I guess we're gonna have to lose somebody because obviously we have no money,
funds.
no funds. But I do think it comes down to giving these guys a year, because this is the first full year with a team that's actually successful. I think you want to at least see 1 year, even if it means we're a first round exit in the playoffs. I think you can still learn a lot, and then you can have a summer where you start to piece together who is your championship team. Right now, this is kind of that tune-up, right? This is that team that's has changed the culture, kind of like the 7 and 8 Browns, 7 and 9. What was it? 7 and 8 Browns, Baker's rookie year, 7, 8 and 1. It's kind of like that tune-up year where, this team you can tell is going to be good. So let's see what pieces need to be added later.
Right. I do think that this year is tricky, and I will agree with you. I lean that the summer is probably the most plausible time window to make a move for the team. But there's just a lot of moving parts and a lot of moving pieces that if you don't do anything, I still think your roster could look different next year.
Yeah.
Ricky Rubio is on a 1-year deal. He's been an NBA journeyman. I think he likes playing with Kevin Love, so I think that's a good plus. I think he likes this team.
I did hear there's been internal discussions about extending
him. Yes. So that's good. I think you have to deal with a Kevin Love contract to some extent after this year. I believe he's up after this season. I think this is the last year we're committed to paying the $31 million to him. I could be wrong.
I think there might be one more.
I hope I'm right though, because I don't want to pay him $30 million next year. And then it's like, I agree. It's the chemistry. I think it would be super easy in this NBA landscape to go out and add talent, to go out and add a scorer. And that's what I would look to do. Somebody who could be off ball to Darius when he maybe not, Milwaukee's the biggest example for me. Drew Holiday's on Darius. Who's the second option? I don't think that Jared Allen, with Giannis, that's a bad matchup. And then you're basically asking Evan Mobley, the rookie, to be your premier scorer, which he has been at times, but it's difficult for him to get it going consistently every night like Jared Allen and like Darius Garland. So if you're going to move, it would be easy to acquire talent. The fit, the chemistry would be the hard part. And what makes me nervous about two things: Colin Sexton coming back. If whatever they're going to have to do with him, he might be an off-season headache for all we know. Going back and forth as agent, trying to find a trade for him being injured, that could be a total mess. And two, I don't see us. This is the beauty of the NBA, and also why the NBA kind of sucks, because the draft is so top heavy, top 5, top 3, a lot of drafts. After that, you're pretty much not getting someone who's going to start. So first round picks are all of a sudden totally expendable to us, in my opinion. I think we could move off of our first round pick next year super easily, package it together with people we have. And if we're a top 5 seed in the East, what are we going to be drafting?
Some top in the 20s.
In the 20s. That person we don't even have roster spots to draft people really to an extent, and they're not going to be a generational starter in all likelihood. It's not like a guy in the 20s is going to plug and play and start over a Cora or over try to be our 3 or something like that.
What I like though, Jeff, about what you've talked about in the past is being able to sell guys high now. Mm-hmm. So, you've mentioned guys like Laurie and Okoro who are playing some of their best ball right now. And so they have their highest stock. The only unfortunate part is I know in every trade that you mentioned, Colin Sexton's in there for the most part. And so unfortunately, he's got the lowest of stock to invest in.
Should have traded him in the offseason, like I was suggesting. But
and that's the one part where you could maybe get away with sending him somewhere in a package. If you give him Okoro and Laurie and a pick, then maybe you can work out something for a Jaylen Brown or a
superstar.
Right. Exactly. But you think about it, Jeff was making the point about we don't even have roster spots to field rookies.
No.
We have guys stepping up. Denzel Valentine, we haven't gotten into it yet because we
We have guys on the
game.
G League roster who would probably start over like a 20, or who would probably get minutes over like a 20-25 pick, like Dylan Windler, basically.
Right. So going out there and getting an all-star guy like Jaylen Brown would be fantastic. And although I lean towards keeping the pieces that we have right now,
right,
I still think it could be an idea that you fiddle around with a little towards the all-star break.
Call some people up for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's underrated though, because we have people on our roster who are not, you wouldn't expect it. And I think that's where, if you're going to give Kobe Altman praise, I would say Dean Wade, undrafted free agent,
Right.
could start for us. He really should have started for us all year long. He's been in and out of protocol or in injuries as well. But between him, Lamar Stevens, I think Denzel Valentine was probably your most underrated move this summer with everything that happened. I mean, he might be even
great
more,
insurance player.
Yeah, he might be even more underrated than Lowry at some points. If he could keep playing like he was last night, I mean, we're paying him like less than $2 million, I think, this year. So
he was pretty good in Chicago for a couple of years. I think he kind of just disappeared a little bit, kind of ran out of the rotation a little bit, especially when you have a lot of young pieces like that Chicago team did that, were stepping up. And, it's just one of those things in the NBA. It is constant competition for that job, to constantly be in that rotation. It's not easy. But also what I like about Denzel is you can tell he's always like one of the most fun guys to watch on the bench.
Yeah.
I really like to see, him. He's especially leading the Barks from the bench, and he's always been a good shooter. He had a fantastic career at Michigan State, kind of a triple-double kind of guy.
They love talking about how he's from Michigan State.
They do bring it up over and over. It's just a lot of these guys that are trying to earn a spot and earn some minutes are getting that opportunity in this stretch. And we're starting to learn more about our team. Oh, there's some guys even down the roster who can still make an impact. And I think that's a lot of fun. I want to give, could we have a Dean Wade segment? This guy,
I love
a
Dean
whole
Wade.
dedicated
He
segment.
might
to
be
Dean
one of my
Wade.
favorite players on the team.
I'm not giving him enough. I didn't give enough credit earlier in the year. I made that comment about, oh yeah, he liked Kevin Durant for one game.
I like him defensively.
I think even defensively, he's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
He's one of those players that just doesn't do anything wrong. He's not going to hurt your team
he's fundamentally
when he's out
sound.
there. Yeah. I mean, I think, in his early career, he was not as strong. He didn't have as much confidence, but now I see him going up against the trees and making some acrobatic layups. I don't even know he had. Like, I knew he had some athleticism. I knew he had a little more bounce than people would have thought when you look at him.
Had a nice putback jam
That's a great putback.
He's kind of athletic.
He's fun to watch, and he can knock down the triple. He was starting to shoot that mid-range jumper too that had a nice touch. He really has come along, and I think he is a starter caliber player on this team, because there's no player that is a star. There is defined roles, and I think there's only a couple of roles. You have your star, you have your defensive guy, and then everybody else is kind of just plug and play. Play your game, be confident in it, be that really good role player. When you simplify your team, when you have a simple starting lineup, a guy like Dean Wade is a starter on your team, because at the end of the day, he's not going to make a mistake. He's only going to help you out. That's the kind of players the Cavaliers need. We don't need the big personalities. We need guys who just want to play some friggin' basketball. And we got, I think, 15 of them on the roster this year.
Yeah.
Well, pre the Isaac Okoro outbreak a little bit, when he played these last recent games before going into protocols, it's so tough to talk sports for me, because when you're having a discussion with someone, you have to look at the microcosms of like a one game performance versus the big picture. Right. So when Okoro was struggling earlier in the year, and people are, on Twitter, either throwing him to the side, some people, or just saying like, oh, he'll come along in this. And I try to point out to people, Dean Wade is an undrafted free agent. An undrafted free agent having 15-8 is better than Isaac Okoro. I don't want to compare our players anyway, but it's something you have to look at, something you have to talk about. But Okoro having, 12-6, you have to think about, all right, what, one more season, or after next season, he's going to be extension eligible though? How much money is he going to want in comparison to Dean Wade? It's all about value in the NBA. If you could find somebody, that's why I say Dean Wade is an underrated Kobe Altman move. Lamar Stevens is an underrated Kobe Altman move. I mean, you could draft 3, 5, 7, 4 years in a row. I hope you could find a couple of good players. It's getting more difficult every year, it seems. But the minor pieces, the role players, the guys who you're not going to pay a whole bunch, who are going to give you big value, is like, that's what I'm saying. It's all about expectations. Me and you know that better than anybody, Justin. Where you're drafted is always going to be looked at. If you're a top 5 player and an undrafted free agent has probably played more consistent basketball than you throughout the, the course of the season, it's something that people are going to notice.
We're going to have to fork over a lot of money for Darius Garland and Evan Mobley soon enough,
Yes.
right? At one point down the road, we're going to have a lot of money tied up in those players, and I'm sure they'll deserve it. And they, we already can tell they're going to be stars. We already turned over $25 million a year to Jared Allen. At the end of the day, 20 million, right? 20 million. What a value. Honestly, what value?
He's underpaid. It's kind of crazy.
20 million a year. You're going to have money tied up in just a couple of guys soon enough because you have a good young core. So who are the complementary pieces that will play for, the right amount of money, but also make the right impact and still, again, follow that same Cavs culture. Those are the things way down the road that,
right.
We come on these podcasts to talk about like games sometimes, and then we'll just go off wherever. And that's how it should be. Right. And I think that's what tells you that the Cavaliers are fun, is we're talking future in Cleveland here. We are talking future with this Cavaliers team.
Yep.
Right now I'm living in a pretty damn good present with this Cavaliers team, but there's so many question marks that I can't wait, to discover as we go along with the Cavaliers these next few years. But again, I just go off on tangents, guys, as you know. I love talking future. I love talking, where we go from here.
Well, and that's what I love about Jeff, because Jeff's always like 2 to 3 steps ahead of me in the discussion of what are we going to do in free agency? What are we going to do in the draft and, football talk? But, him bringing up the trade talk for this episode, I think is very valid, because you go to that Raptors game and you watch guys step up. You watch Denzel Valentine step up. You watch Kevin Love come into the starting lineup, something that, we weren't very happy with a couple of years in the past.
I was tired of it.
He does phenomenally. And you're looking at guys and you're looking, all right, we can package some of these guys that we're going to have to pay in the offseason, maybe not next year, but down the road. But we could just invest right now in a trade package for a guy like Jaylen Brown, or I don't know, a Paul George or something like that. If we're going to start, putting a bunch of people together for a package, So it's really honestly something that I love having Jeff around for, because he's always 2 or 3 steps ahead.
Well, guys, I don't know why we even have to worry about trading anybody. LeBron's coming back in 2 years.
Goodness.
That's what I heard.
That's all right. Is it time to talk?
It's official.
That's not even on the segment. Get that out. It's almost like sports just doesn't work though, as they should, or they could work better. They should be optimized more, because if you think about small market teams and Cleveland is a small market city for all
talking about the Guardians.
The Guardians is actually the worst, but the NBA is somehow right on par. But you're at this point where being bad only works so long for you, because now Sexton, somebody's gone. It's not even feasible with our cap space room right now, how the cap works in the NBA, for it to even work, that you could keep Jared Allen, Garland, Sexton. Sexton technically should have been first for the extension pre-injury. Garland, now Okoro is going to come up. You're going to have to pay Evan Mobley. Like, you have, that's the beauty of the young roster, is that they're young, but you literally can't keep them all around. So it's something you have to talk about. And with a small market team, I guess that's the 5-year extension coming from Kobe. If anyone's going to be able to figure it out and who's going to be able to play and play effectively, it looks to be JB Bickerstaff for now. But let's do a quick transition. This transition is brought to you by the Cleveland Pulse mug and by the NBA All-Star Game. Make sure that you do hashtag NBA All-Star, hashtag Darius Garland, hashtag Jared Allen, hashtag Evan Mobley, hashtag Taco Fall. Get him in the skills challenge. I think Evan Mobley should be in the skills challenge. Don't think he will be.
I like that idea.
Would be interesting. The Raptors game. What the Lord was the score? 144-99. 45-point victory. I believe it was the second largest margin of victory in the history of the franchise. Top performers include everybody: Garland 22, Love 22, Markkanen 20, and Wade 17, Valentine 17 and 9. Couple of double opportunities there. Garland was on a triple-double watch. I've been waiting for him to get a triple-double. It's starting to anger me. Justin, you didn't like the 3-point shooting in the first half for the Cavs, and Logan didn't like the turnovers, but it all worked out in the end.
Yeah, it was just shaky in the beginning. Obviously, we still ended the first quarter with a lead. Even Logan was texting us early on in that game that the turnovers were pretty bad for the most part. And I feel like the turnovers for us are a very consistent thing, but somehow, unlike football, we're able to overcome those turnovers and actually go win the game. So honestly, it just shows the grit of this team and just being able to deal with the issues that they might have, knowing that they have those issues and just pushing forward and being able to eventually, blow out teams like they did. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the Raptors missing quite a few guys, but still great to see everyone just step up like they did.
Yeah, I mean, one scored 144 points
the end of with missing guys.
At the end of the day,
a couple of our starters.
They scored 144 points. They had 46 in the third quarter, I think. I mean, they had 30 and 30 in the first and second quarters. I don't know what they did in the fourth quarter. I mean, it didn't matter by then, obviously.
46 in the third.
Yeah, 46 in the third. Like, that's what I'm talking about, is like
crazy.
The roster they put on the floor yesterday. Yes, like we have mentioned, they were basically playing the Raptors G League roster, but to put up, I mean, that amount of points, 30 plus in any quarter, 3 straight quarters, and like you said, capped off with the 46 in the third. I mean, that is really, really, it's mind-boggling that we scored our season high for the year in a game where we're missing some of our best players. What was the second largest margin of victory in the history of the franchise? Is that what it is? 45 points. Wow. Yeah. I mean, again, it's just really, really cool to see the same culture, different personnel. Right. That's exactly what we saw yesterday. And that also gives me hope in games coming up that, we're still down Mobley and Allen. Helps on the way, though. Okoro's sitting on the bench and he's coming back after he passes his, what's it called? Conditioning workout and everything. Mobley should be back in the next 2 or 3 games, I'd imagine. Allen's soon to follow after that. Help is on the way, but it gives me hope knowing we can put out a roster like we did last night, like we did against Boston, and still have a chance to win a basketball game. That comes down to Jay Bickerstaff. That comes down to these guys really just going out there and playing hard every night. Yeah,
it's the second largest margin of victory because the first largest was the NBA record until this season when the Thunder, what was that score? Like 60, 70 points.
That was absurd.
But before that game, the Cavs had like in the 70s or the 80s beat somebody like 63. So
was it Denver they beat? I remember that statistic. I forgot the Cavaliers led that.
Not a whole lot to talk about last night.
No,
really. I mean, it's 72 points, I think, the first half of play, and we don't. I'm starting to see us trend away from some of the negatives like all year. Like, I don't think we have these, obviously against this Raptors lineup, it's tough to do, but we don't have these extended droughts where like nobody's scoring when we can't get the basket, we can't get the ball in the basket. So I think that we've in real time corrected some issues. We got plug and play players. And there's a lot of guys on this bench who probably could be and would be starting for some teams around the NBA. Of course, Ricky Rubio and Kevin Love playing a more aggressive, bigger role last night, and it works out good. I was a little bit nervous about Kevin Love starting. You're not lying, but man, I think that's basically it for those 2 games. Not a whole lot to talk about. Cavs do move into, what did I say, 4th or 5th in the Eastern Conference?
I think it's currently 5th.
How long did it take us to get this many wins last year?
I think
the whole year.
Basically. It took us 50 games to get 20 wins. We have 20 wins through 33 games this year. I like the splits, man. 10-7 at home, 10-6 on the road.
Yeah, that's pretty phenomenal.
We've been good road warriors, and we've been pretty good at home. I thought last year it made me nervous last year when we couldn't win games at home, albeit the roster composition totally different. But it's the best part of the show. It's the upcoming games and predictions. Current standings, it's going to be a tight one all year long. We did not do this at the beginning of the year, so we're probably only going to have, what do we think? Probably like 70 games predicted, maybe a little bit less than that, 65. Logan at the top, 12 correct predictions, 3 incorrect. And then we have a 2-way tie for second. Me and Justin both have 9 correct and 6 incorrect. Justin picked up a game this week because I did not know that I correctly assessed our COVID issues, but I had no idea that the Raptors were going to be basically using the, Turkish basketball, whatever, I didn't know one player in their starting lineup last night. So it's annoying. I feel bad for fans. Like, last night, I guess if you were a Cavs fan, you didn't care because he was at home and we scored 150, but it's like, you could you could pay for tickets like weeks in advance and then nobody will be playing. It's a little bit annoying, but it's just the world we live in. Let's start with and I don't have any of my resources up. I can't be typing or anything because I have no idea. But we're gonna start. I have us listed in order. We're gonna start with Logan.
4-0.
Oh God.
I was
Please.
gonna go game by game, and man just said 4-0.
No, I'm kidding. That's not my official prediction.
All right, let's start with the Pelicans at New Orleans. 12-22. Zion Williamson, too much Southern cooking down there. Not eligible to play for. Is he out for like the year?
I did that situation has changed over and over. We heard he was going to be back in December. Then I heard he had a couple more weeks, and I said, "Oh, yeah, he's almost there. He's just not quite there." It kind of feels like almost like the Kawhi Leonard situation with San Antonio, where it's like, is he just not happy? Does he just not want to play?
I just
is
don't
New
think
Orleans
he can play.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's just not quite there yet. Pelicans 12-22.
Terrible.
I could be wrong about this, but I think I heard Brandon Ingram might be out with COVID.
Even if he's playing, I don't know. I don't take it into consideration.
I got this as a win.
I also have to win.
But you know our history at New Orleans?
Not good, like Miami.
It sucks. Like it goes back years and years. We actually didn't beat them at New Orleans one time when LeBron was here in his second stint. And I don't think we've won at New Orleans since he left either.
See,
I could be wrong about this.
This is information I just don't have ready.
I could be wrong about this. I don't know what goes down in New Orleans apparently, but something about the Cavaliers do not like playing there. However, yeah, I'm going to go with a win.
Yeah, that's the same thing you said about Miami, though.
Right?
I feel like that was your prediction too, where you're like, yeah, they don't have a really great record there. But I'm still going with the Cavs.
We haven't been good on the road. Even like when LeBron was here, I just don't know how good we were on the road.
We really weren't that great of a road
I just
team.
don't think we cared on the road. This team cares so much for a lot of good reasons.
The only problem with predicting these games, the thing I'm more worried about is when are we getting guys back?
I'm hoping we have a core back for that game.
Yeah.
It is tomorrow. And we're recording this on Monday. You know, we are your Tuesday show, but we're recording this on Monday because of scheduling.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we wouldn't get to that game anyway tomorrow because it's at 8 p.m. EST for some of our Central Time folk who's
all over the country.
Now back in the Northeast Ohio for a small period of time, which is good. We'll get together like this and it'll be a good time.
Yes.
Thursday. So we have Tuesday, we have Wednesday off. Thursday, December 30th, 7 p.m. at Washington, which I think that they're right now, which that is 3 days away. I think they're pretty healthy. I don't know if they have anyone on the list. I think Beal and Kuzma are playing for them. Or is Bradley? No, Bradley's in it.
Beal's in the
Bradley
COVID
Beal's
protocols.
in it. Yes. But I think
I said 4-0 confidently, guys. No,
stay with it.
We're kind of
stay with it.
One
at a time.
What is up with Eastern Conference basketball being fun again? Like I feel like Boston we're playing good games with. We've already played 2 games against Washington, and they've been like, Kuzma's been like this, that, and everything. And I don't know. But
you could be in the West right now, like the Lakers, be 2 games under 500, and still be in the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
I would love to play the Lakers again.
I would love to.
I think we'd bury them.
I love watching.
I can't believe we lost them the first time.
I know. I just love watching because back when I was growing up, when I was a kid, it was the Pistons, it was the Cavs, it was the Nets, it was the Pacers even at times. The Celtics obviously had their run. And then I started growing up, we had like the Miami Big Threes and stuff. Right. I think by then the Western Conference was truly like the dominant team or the dominant conference from like 2010 on. It's fun watching the East be that grit and grind, competitive conference again and being, the dominant conference it is. On to this Wizards game at Washington, 17-16, assuming they don't have Beal. And assuming here's the other thing, do you guys think there'll be any fall off as guys come back, or do you think these guys will just go right back to it?
That's a good question.
Will there be a little bit of a feeling out process? And maybe that December 30th game at Washington might be one of those days where you just don't shoot well because you're not totally there.
Unfortunately, I feel like Evan, when he came back from his injury, was in the middle of that period of trying to figure it back out, and unfortunately he has to go back through it with the whole safety protocol situation. But this game's definitely a tough one because Bradley Beal has been almost like a non-factor in each one of the games that we played him against so far. Maybe that's because Isaac Okoro was guarding him, but I do worry about getting worked by Kuzma a little bit.
And I also think Dinwiddie is due for a good day for them. Right. He's kind of been disappointing a little bit in Washington this year. I have to make the prediction though, don't I?
Yeah, you're first up, buddy. That's on you.
Like going first? First time you've been first.
This is the first time. Maybe that's why I'm 12-3. At Washington, I'm gonna say this is our loss.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say this is our loss, and I think the reason is I foresee a bad shooting day
Okay.
Guys like Montrezl Harrell have killed us, especially as energy is just never ending. Not to say we don't have guys who don't have never ending energy, but I think someone like Kevin Love might have to play extended minutes in that game.
Other guy on their bench who killed us like the first game.
Oh my God, who wasn't
that?
Wasn't
it Montreal?
No, well, Montrez also killed us, but there was someone else. I'm trying to think of who it was. I'm just gonna say at Washington we have a bad shooting day. I can't ever just say 4-0.
Yeah,
it's just I do. Spoiler alert. I think I'm gonna go win the last 2 games. We'll get those as we go, but I think this is just kind of one of those trap games, as they call them in football, where it seems like on paper you should still beat this team, especially down their star and Bradley Beal. But we'll wait and see. I'm going to go loss on this game.
I kind of agree. And Justin, I think the good thing is that whether it's the medical staff or whoever, if it's JB's call, I don't think that we've rushed anybody back from the protocol. So it seemed like they are kind of, game ready. And I do think it's the conditioning. If you miss, 7 to 10 days without playing NBA minutes, that's probably the biggest concern. If they could get up and down the court, efficiently. We have good athletes and everything. So hasn't been a big concern. I'm going to go with Logan here just because I'm thinking that Jared Allen and Evan Mobley still might be out, and I'm worried about Montrezl Harrell, and Daniel Gafford is actually playing underrated basketball for them. It seems very similar to Robert Williams and Boston, where he basically went triple-double on us because Taco Fall had to start or whoever. So I just think we're not going to be able to guard the paint very well, even with Bradley Beal being out. I'm going to go loss. I think that would be a disappointing loss, even with people in protocol, but I think our bigs are just too important for us to be missing some games.
Oh man, I'm in a toss up here because I look at our Hawks game that got delayed and I feel like they're a team who's currently underperforming.
Where they are 10 guys on the COVID list right now.
Yeah, and that's my problem is, like, are they going to get some of those guys back?
Then?
Well, I just looked and now I forgot that we're back-to-back. So it's like now Friday's the back-to-back, and we haven't played exquisite in back-to-backs, I don't think. Back-to-backs are tough in the NBA.
By the 31st Tuesday.
I almost want to go opposite and go because I feel like you guys are going to both say wins for the Hawks.
Yeah.
I'm going to say we lose to the Wizard, or I don't know.
Justin, you are tied right now with Jeff. This could mean
that's what I'm saying. But me and Jeff are gonna have the same predictions again. I'm gonna go different. I'm gonna say we win against the Wizards and we lose against the Hawks.
Okay, Justin getting the Hawks in early. Justin with an L.
Oh goodness.
I mean, it's not going to change my opinion. I'm going to win against the Hawks. I think even if they get some of those guys back, I don't know how long Trae Young is out. I mean, obviously, he's like the snake, the head of the snake with that team. He could miss
that game, I bet.
I think he potentially could miss that game. And John Collins has not played good basketball without Trae Young. He's a totally different player. I think I saw a thing on Twitter where it said John Collins without Trae Young. Was a picture of Derek Williams in a Cavs jersey.
Wow.
Derek Williams. I do think on New Year's Eve, in front of the home crowd, everyone's gonna be a little more rowdy. I think on that day.
It's true.
I have a feeling we should have a quarterback by then, and I think Mobley might just sneak in there before before this year's over, and we grab a win against Atlanta. The second time we were supposed to play them on a back-to-back before, and obviously that got rescheduled. Back-to-back is definitely kind of the big factor in this prediction, but I just feel like we're coming back home after 2 days on the road. It's New Year's Eve. We have some guys back. We have good momentum going right now. So right now I'm going 2-1 with a win here over the Hawks so far.
I'm going to win here as well, mostly because I watched this game. I watched the second half of the Knicks-Hawks game on Christmas Day. And Cavs fan getting cocky. It's kind of a recipe for disaster, but those teams are not good.
Yeah.
I just don't know what it is about it. Like John Collins, he looks okay, but I don't know, Clint Capella and John Collins, if Trae Young isn't playing like that doesn't scare me. Cam Reddish is liable to have a big game, I guess, but if Okoro's back, I think Okoro will be guarding him. And if Jarrett or Mobley is back, I think they're going to have trouble down low. And I just don't think their bigs are really that good, and they're just underperforming. I think it's going to continue. So I like us with the chance with the home crowd there. But Sunday, January 2nd, 6 p.m., Sunday matinee, as they so say, versus the Pacers, a team we have not seen all year long. We haven't seen Atlanta either, I guess. And we haven't seen the Pelicans. So some new faces here, which is good on this 4-game stretch. I do like that. It's does get a little boring playing the same teams in the East,
Right.
2 or 3 times at the beginning of your schedule. But Indiana, Logan said they were, anybody was on the table. They said they were selling the house, but they haven't made a move yet. So
They certainly haven't. Cavaliers are going to win this game because I'll be in attendance.
Oh, heck yeah.
I'm going to watch a win, guys. I'm bringing back a victory.
Heck yeah.
The main storyline, I think, in this game is your rookie matchup. Chris Duarte, who has really surprised a lot of people this year, against Evan Mobley, who should be back by then, hoping that there's no weird setback with the conditioning drill or anything like that. I do think the Cavaliers win this game. I don't know how handily. I do think the Pacers are still one of those teams. I mean, 14-19. Yeah, 5 games under 500. I get that, but it's the Eastern Conference, like we said this year. It does seem like pretty much everybody's giving a pretty good battle with most teams. So I think with this team, you have Karis LeVert, you have Miles Turner, but you have a Karis LeVert and a Miles Turner who are kind of playing angry, because they hate their situation. You would think they'd want to play to get a new team, but I also think they're playing a little bit angry, a little bit frustrated. I'm hoping the Cavaliers only frustrate them some more. I'm going some win on the second with a win on the second. There
yeah, I'll go win too. I think 3-1 is plausible, however you slice it. And 2 wins, I'd be happy with 2 wins, regardless of people coming in and out of protocol. I think going 2 wins here. This is not the easiest stretch of basketball, even if the teams don't have great records. You're still back and forth. You get these 2 games at home, which is nice, and your first 2 games are on the road. But a little bit of travel might be difficult, especially I didn't think about the second game. If guys are in protocol, they're not going to travel. So we should know those first 2 games, who's going to be playing, I would assume. And I think the Hawks game on New Year's Eve is something that we'll probably get to see people back in full force. But I don't think the Pacers really can. I just don't know who's going to guard. Who's their one? Who's guarding Darius?
Oh my God, why? It's blanking on me.
That's what I'm saying.
Malcolm Brogdon, right?
Okay.
He's a good defender.
Yeah, he might be all right. I just think Darius is going to go off on some of these teams because I don't know if they have good defending point guards. Trae Young don't play defense, but if he's out, I wish everyone was in, and I wish we could see, full strength versus full strength. But
that's always been my thing is for the NBA and the NFL in general. Although in the NFL right now, I can take with guys not playing the best, not having their best players out there against the Browns. But with this Cavs team, I really want to see teams. That's why I want to see the Hawks at full capacity.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a team that you could get matched up with in the playoffs.
That'd be an interesting
and
series,
it'd be a really nice 7-series game.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going with a win here. I think this is probably outside of the Pelicans game, probably the easiest one to just be like, yeah, this is a win. Might be like Jeff was talking about with Jaylen Brown, maybe LeVert trying out for the Cavs here. Who knows?
Probably.
But I think this is an easy win. We go 3-1, and we have a little bit of difference in the opinions here, people.
We have some difference.
Maybe some room to make up on
Justin.
Logan,
chance for you to grab second, right?
Yeah.
At this rate. Now, I don't know, guys. I'm telling you, next podcast, if we lost to the Pelicans, I'll say I told you so, but I really didn't tell you so because I said win. But there's just something about playing in New Orleans that scares the freaking hell out of me, guys. I don't know what it is. 3-1. We're all going 3-1, correct? I think that makes sense to me. I do think this team, even down some guys, can beat all 4 of these teams. And that's the reason I'm going with that. And I'm thinking about it from that perspective. Now throw in the returning guys. I can't wait. It's gonna be like the Avengers portal thing, like these guys coming back. I mean, not that we were ever in danger by any means, but just to kind of all of a sudden, oh yeah, like the armor's at full strength now. I'm really excited to see this team back at full strength. By the way, the protocols. So if a guy is in protocol, does that mean he likely won't be in protocol for a while, just with the way that technically COVID works?
I would think so, because that's what I'm wondering. I think our situation can only get marginally worse because the only person who I would care to lose at this point really is Darius.
Is Garland, right?
It's like other teams probably have less people on the list than us.
And it sounds like the protocols are changing now for the NBA. They're not going to make it 10 days. They're going to make it a little shorter, 7. Is that what they officially said?
Yeah.
Which could get you a game back, in a lot of those situations. I just think it's one of those things. We're taking the hits early. And we're still 20-13. Right. We had injuries. We're still 20-13.
Yep.
I mean, that's what's good is we're getting the bull crap. We're like, oh, we had a hard schedule, the hardest in the NBA, and we're still 20-13. Now it's time for us to kind of just start soaring, right? And I think coming off a 45-point victory that we could do just that in these next 4.
We're your Tuesday show. We're Cavs Encapsulated. It's all-star voting season. There's 2-for-1 days. We tweeted it out. It's on the Cleveland Pulse Twitter at Pulse Cleveland. I'll put our personal Twitters down there in the description below if you want to follow us. But make sure you do hashtag all-star game, hashtag Darius Garland, hashtag Jarrett Allen, hashtag Evan Mobley, hashtag Kevin Love. Do whatever you want to do, but make sure you get one vote in a day. Go on the NBA app and work through their terrible user interface. It really is bad. I don't understand how they're $1 billion company and they can't get a good app out there, but I digress. And yeah, that's going to be Cavs Encapsulated episode 10. Logan is not off the hook though. Logan has to figure out what word we want people to put in the comments.
Man.
If you've watched this far, throw it in the comments. This is a tough one. We've had banana and we've had eggnog. So you can tell we're mad hungry when we record these.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. What? New Year's is coming up.
Logan, I actually had a phrase for this one. I actually had it.
Do you want to take it?
I actually had it like planned up. I thought it was kind of my thing that I was the.
Well, I said banana and you said eggnog, so I was
Can
kind
you
of just
like whisper to me?
Right. I mean, I don't think it will work with these mics, but it has something to do with New Year's new Cavs.
With New Year's new Cavs.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they've been new in this year though.
Well, right, but it's like technically a new year of basketball.
Oh well, maybe. I mean, yeah, I guess. No phrases.
No phrases.
Oh my God, guys! Why is it's like there's how many words in the English language when you're like say a word right in the spot, you can't come up with anything. I'm gonna say fedora.
Fedora.
I like it.
So if you're going to do your New Year's Eve party, put your fedora on. Cavs, get Cavs fedoras in the team shops. They would sell. A couple of them would sell. Boys, anything else before we hop off?
No, sir.
I think I'm good. Usually I have like a bunch of things.
We've been
to
going
say,
for
and
a while, so
I just keep talking, but I think I got it all out of my system.
We've been going for about 55 minutes. So
it was a good show.
We appreciate you. We appreciate the Cavs. Make sure that you, like I said, do the all-star stuff. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, turn on the bell notification, and follow us on Twitter. You know when we're going live, you know when we upload videos, all that good jazz. And we'll catch you guys next week on Tuesday for episode 11. Hopefully the Cavs are 3-1, 4-0 to that extent, with some good quality victories for us to talk about. In the meantime, make sure, let them know.
Let them know.